Alexa's Publishing Chat, episode 145. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, we are talking all about author collaborations, which is just a topic I cannot get enough of or ever get tired of these days. Really, how working with others can truly expand our reach, our audience, can help us when we're launching our books, when we're continuing to market our books, when we're looking for new opportunities. And in this episode with Danika Bloom, we go into a whole lot of ways that we can collaborate together in community, build community, and work together to support all of our goals. I just want to remind you before we get into the episode that tickets to the 2025 Women in Publishing Summit are on sale, $100 off in early bird pricing. Please go ahead and grab those now. We're already getting together in pre-conference bonus sessions. We have a networking session every month. We're in community already in our private Facebook group and really just rocking and rolling, getting things going and ready. March is going to be here so fast and the price will increase by $50 in January. So we want to make sure that you can get them while they're still $100 off. You can get those at womeninpublishingsummit.com. The page will pop up with the ticket sales page right on the front. And it is a fully virtual conference, although we are live in Zoom. So while you're at your own home and don't have to travel anywhere, you are most definitely going to feel like you're at a live event because we do everything live in Zoom over the course of 4 days. We hope so much that we will see you there. It's been such a wonderful experience. And speaking of building and growing community, that is the point of this conference, not only learning together, but celebrating together, encouraging, empowering, supporting, and building community together. All right. I sure hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. Welcome to the podcast, a place where you can come to get inspiration, motivation, help, encouragement, and support in your journey to write, publish, and sell your book. Hosted by Alexa Bigwarfe. 'Cause I've been where you've been, and I felt what you're feeling, and I don't want to get in your way. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Publish Her podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of building your author network and community, which is a topic that I absolutely love to dig into. I just think community is so important, not only as authors are growing their own network of professionals in there, but also the community that we build with our readers and how important all of that is for having a long-term career. So today my guest is Danika Bloom. She is a USA Today best-selling romance author and has been building and supporting author communities for almost 20 years. Her author superpower is connecting people and helping new authors find the allies they need to succeed. She was a 2-term vice president for her RWA chapter, founder of the membership community, Author Ever After, and creator of the Passion Project to Published Framework, a Done With You program that helps pre-published romance authors earn their first royalties. So welcome, Danika. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh gosh, come on. Thank you for having me, Alexa.
I love talking with other romance writers. It's so rare that I get romance writers on the show, so this is so much fun. So what kind of romance writer are you?
I write steamy contemporary leaning towards rom-com.
Okay. Steamy contemporary leaning towards rom-com. So they're funny, but they're steamy. I like it.
Yes. And the best are when it's funny in the bedroom. Those are my favorite scenes to write.
Oh, yes. Okay. That can be hilarious. So I always like to start with how your journey began. Were you always a writer? When did your writing journey start?
I am not one of those folks who knew I wanted to be a writer from very young, but I ended up being a technical writer, a career technical ghostwriter for nonprofit organizations in Canada for 25 years. And the writing of the novel was actually my first manuscript was called Drinking Scotch with Strangers, and it was a classic first book. My husband left me for another woman, and I needed to process that. So I wrote a novel, fictional version of that story, which will never see the light of day. But it led me to writing the first novel that was published, which actually is called Mother Teresa's Advice for Jilted Lovers. And it's using the same themes of every man in the book dies. So I thought I was writing romance, but in fact, I hadn't read enough romance back then to actually understand the structure of a good romance novel. So it's that was my first book, and how I ended up actually really getting the bug to write more fiction was joining the RWA chapter, because it was the only group in town um, that was meeting regularly and that was really welcoming. And so they let me join even though I wasn't writing romance. And the rest, as they say, is history. I just kind of fell in love with romance authors and
How many
started
books?
reading a lot.
How many books do you have out now?
10, and then a couple of nonfiction as a different pen name.
Awesome. Well, there
Hmm.
you go, just rolling right along then. So, at what point in time did you decide that you were interested in the whole idea of community and building community?
I think that was never a question. Big back in the nonprofit days, everything that I was doing was connected to working with communities. So that's kind of the nonprofit sector, right? And my roles always had me going out into communities, connecting with other nonprofits and helping them connect with each other. So it's just kind of part of who I am. And it was a natural progression to, in fact, before creating Author Ever After, I was with three other partners, created another community called the Creative Academy for Writers. And that still is a community that's going, and they welcome all genres of writer. And I was there for almost 5 years. I believe it was 5 years, 4 years. Um, yeah, and just I, I mean, I don't believe this whole, for me at least, I write alone, sure, but I'm not a writer alone, and I never have been able to be a writer alone.
So, well, let's lean into that a little bit. What do you think the importance of having a purposeful author network is for career growth and what's the impact?
Well, I mean, right from the beginning, like the mindset piece, I believe that authors are the best people to talk to when we are trying to handle the negative inner critic that will inevitably pop up. Because as much as our spouses and family members and best friends may love us and want to support us, it really is helpful to have other authors
Mhm.
there to talk to that about and get support from, because they get it, right? And I honestly, I would never have finished a book had I not had other authors around who were, some of them at the same stage as me, but and others further ahead saying, no, it's normal. Like, yeah, I've written and published 27 books and I still have that crisis of confidence at a certain point in every story. Um, so from the very beginning through to publishing, I mean, publishing a book is a lot of work.
Mhm.
Whether you're indie or trad, you've got to be marketing, and those other author relationships that you have are, I believe they're integral to having a successful career, because they're the people who are out there. They have audiences of readers who will overlap with yours, and they're the ones who are putting your book in front of like your perfect readers. So.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
it comes to collaborations, what are some of the best collaborations that you've had with authors on the we talked about the support through you've talked about having people there through the writing and publishing, but have you done any really good collaborations post launch with authors that have helped you sell more books?
Yeah, so yes, I attended a conference a couple of times. Sky Warren used to do, oh, in fact, she's still doing it, I believe, again, a romance author mastermind. And so just for the romance authors, and I met a number of authors there, and over the last 2 years, we've been meeting every single Friday in a Zoom meeting, just kind of randomly drop in, and the relationships there have allowed me to push books pre-order at the pre-order stage, because we are all rom-com authors or leaning into rom-com. It's that community of people who put me in front of their audience and I put them in front of my audience, and we do BookBub review swaps, for instance, which is really valuable. Highly recommend. Um, And yeah, it's that connecting with the authors who are writing like you to the same audience that I think is so important. And
Mhm.
lots of different ways to, the newsletter swaps, obviously, at launch time and post launch. And when you get a BookBub feature deal, or if you're doing any kind of a stacked promo, is really, really helpful because they're your people.
Right. So, speaking of that, how do you know who to connect with, who the right collaborators might be, or supporters, or even mentors? What kind of things are you looking for, and do you advise other people to look for in those relationships?
Well, what I look for, I mean, I am an outgoing, irreverent kind of person who says what just pops into my head. So when I'm looking for partners, I'm looking for people who can take my personality.
That's important.
It kind of is. But at the beginning, when I was first getting started, it was I was looking for people who would cheerlead me um, in a way that I felt so I work with a lot of authors who are just getting started, and they're often tentative about reaching out to authors who are already published and asking for support. And I get it, as was I, but I surrounded myself with people who were just far enough along ahead of me that they were encouraging me to reach out to those authors that I didn't know and say, hey, I'm a new author, and for instance, I'm growing my list. And I would love to be able to, I think we have similar readers. Can I share one of your books that you might have coming up on promo? Can you let me know when you have your book free so I can share it with my list? And just kind of, ease into a relationship by saying, hey, I think we might have something in common. Can I be helpful to you? And then many of those authors will turn around and say, delightful, I would love to be helpful to you. And subscribing to a lot of author emails. When I first was getting started, I subscribed, honestly, hundreds of author emails and just started to see what their personalities were like. You can tell a lot, right? Who are the ones you can write back to and say, loved this email, um, you know, referencing a story and developing relationships that really are quite natural. And then when it comes time to have an ask, you're already in relationship, you're already in conversation with them. So
Yeah.
it's easier.
That's great. I mean, I'll just while you're thinking, I'll say one of the things that I've seen some authors do that I thought was really cool is if they're writing in the same genre, they'll either co-author a book, like one of them will write one point of view and the other will write the other, or co-author a series where one writes one book, another writes another, or even a group of authors. I thought it was really cool. There was one group that divided all the months of the year, and then they brought together 12 authors and they wrote this like series of books that were standalone books but connected through all the months of the
Yes.
year, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I've been in one of those like shared world where an author has the world and then each of the participants writes a story in that world. A lot of fun, and that is a fantastic way to cross promote because part of the deal is you all promote each other's books when they release.
Right.
Um, Another thing that I don't know if it is still, I mean, the way I got my USA Today bestseller status was not on my own. So it is still a legit tag, and I'm still
Mhm.
proud of having been in a collection, but that was a number of authors working together in an anthology.
That's how I got
So,
mine too. So don't you feel bad about
uh,
it? Because sometimes, I mean, that's what it takes, right? Is because it takes so many sales. And I don't think that a lot of authors realize how many sales across how many platforms it takes to hit those big lists. And
yeah,
when you can come together with a bunch of other authors who have lists and promote each other and do that, I think it's phenomenal. I mean, it does the trick, right?
it
And you're
yeah. It's
yeah,
still an accomplishment, absolutely. Because
absolutely.
yeah, and it's in that period of 1 week. Like you have to push
Mhm.
really hard for that 1 week.
Mhm.
Um, the shared world, the anthologies, I mean, and there are things that, we may not have thought of yet. Well, I'm co-writing with an author who is just when we did these co-writes, we did two novellas, and she hadn't yet launched a rom-com pen name. So I love her writing. She writes PNR, reverse harem, paranormal with shifters. It's insanity
Wow.
inside her books. They're fantastic, hilarious, and just bizarre. And I just love, love, love her writing. And we somehow connected and over time realized it would be fun to co-write. So we've written two books together, and it was going to be her first into writing rom-com as a new pen name. It took us a little longer to get to publishing, so since she has published two rom-coms, but that was a whole lot of fun co-writing.
Does sound like
And now yeah, yeah,
takes away the loneliness of writing too. Plus, you have somebody who's pushing you along. The first two books I did, well, the first one is a little bit different, but the second book I did, I had a co-author, and I loved having a co-author because we divided. It was a nonfiction book for moms, and we divided and conquered. We had deadlines and timelines that were felt a lot more real because there was somebody else actually waiting on
yeah.
your chapters, and I loved having a co-author. Okay, so as we get kind of winding this up, so we now have established the importance of having this author community, how to find people, some different things that we can do with each other. Then what are your ideas on some best practices for maintaining those relationships, nurturing them, and leveraging them along the way?
I'm a huge fan of regular meetings. So what I'm a huge fan of is creating basically like self-directed mastermind groups.
Mm,
Um, I mentioned the rom-com gang that we've been meeting for 2 years. There are like, I don't know, 30 or 40 people who will regularly show up, not every Friday, but most Fridays. And it's a great way for the relationships to develop because it's casual conversation. And I'm doing the same thing with other author coaches. I'm in two different communities, one for authors who run communities for authors and one who are just authors who coach authors. And it's just a space to come together every week, or in one of those cases, every month, and just talking to people who are your peers. And that's where you learn like who you're going to jive with and who you're going to, and that's where also where some really great ideas for partnerships are born. So Lisa Daly writes rom-coms. She also writes nonfiction for
yeah.
authors. And her mom had a friend who said, "Hey, how come I can't find any of Lisa's books in large print?"
Huh.
And Lisa came to one of our Friday meetings and said, "My mom's friend wants large print steamy romance." And so 10 of us created large print steamy romance
Nice.
novellas. We all had novellas. Christmas, did a Kickstarter together. Like that's not something that you just would think to plan, but in the moment, everyone's like, "Hey, I've got a Christmas novella for your mom's best friend. Let's launch a Kickstarter for it." And we did, and it was a ton of
Fun.
fun. Like that's kind of, I mean, a best practice is just, show up and be open to new ideas, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so great. All right. Well, thank you so much for all of this great information. Where would you well, I guess do you have any final tips before I close this?
Final tips. Be brave. I think that's the thing. Like just remember that, and I imagine it's the same across most genres, but particularly in the romance genre, authors are so generous. They
Mm,
really are, the rising tide lifts all
yeah,
boats kind of people. And don't be afraid to reach out to someone who you admire and just say hi. Like, I'm where you were a couple years ago. Have you got any tips for me? Or how can is there anything that build that relationship, I guess. Don't
great,
be afraid to be brave.
great idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Where would you like people to go to learn more about you?
Well, my website is authorEverAfter.com, and that's where you'll find what I do with early career romance authors. If you're in a stage of writing where you're struggling with a lot of inner critic, I've got this really fun, it's an SMS course. So it's, it's like every day for 21 days, I will send you a voice message with an exercise to get
Fun.
you motivated and back on track. And you text me back and I'll text you back. And it's just a super, super fun program. And you'll find that on my website. And if you're a romance author, I highly encourage you to just um, book a free 30-minute call with me. Let me talk to you about your book and where you are, and I can typically come up with one or two next steps that'll just move you a little bit further along the path in 30 minutes. And they're just a lot of fun. And it's just one of those things. Be brave, like reach out, have a conversation with somebody new.
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Danika.
Oh my gosh, Alexa, the pleasure is all mine. Thanks so much for having me.
You don't have to give me your heart. You don't have to give it away. You don't gotta
Thank you for joining us on the podcast. We hope to see you back for the next episode. Great, huge thanks goes to Jasmine Commerce for the use of her song. You can find Jasmine on SoundCloud. Go check out all of her music. We'll see you next time.